What is going on, y'all? Welcome to the Mission Ready Men briefing right here on the SHR Media Network, where we are training up warriors, not mealy-mouthed weaklings. Today's Tuesday, October 14th, in the year of our Lord 2025. Today would have been Charlie Kirk's 32nd birthday. This is today's a show. This is a show where we come, men, everyone really, but where we come to get equipped to stand firm, speak truth, and fight back against a culture that is trying to steal your faith, your family, and your freedom. We are in a spiritual battle. It's not just political, it's spiritual. And this battle is always raging and never, ever takes a day off. So we're done pulling punches. We are done pulling punches. The gloves are off, and we are getting after it. So be sure to follow us at Mission Ready Men on all the socials, Facebook, Instagram, X, or Twitter if you prefer, TikTok, Truth Social, and I'm even on Getter, although I haven't really been very active on Getter or Truth Social. But we're there, and we're gonna try and step that game up as well. And also be sure to follow and subscribe to our Rumble and YouTube channels. And if you want to wear the fight, let everyone know that you are in this fight. Grab your gear at missionreadymen.com, click Shop 7 Armors, and check out all of the great designs that we have over there. All right, y'all, I think that's it for business, so it's go time. And obviously, the big story of the past week has been the return of the peace deal between Israel and Hamas, and the return of the hostages. And Israel and the world are celebrating, as we all should be celebrating. Hostages are home. The war is quote unquote over, and everyone is being told to sing Kumbaya. Behind the scenes, though, and for people who have been paying attention, the deal is not as, I don't think the deal is as good as is being portrayed in the American Pravda. Trump's visit to the Knesset is historic. There's no doubt about that. He's the fourth United States president to address the Knesset. But Israel is walking a fine line, and Hamas is, as always, is the case with Islamic terrorists. They're playing games. They're playing games, and anyone paying attention knows this. And I pray that everyone is paying attention and everyone understands that as wonderful as it is that the live hostages have been returned, Hamas still has chips to play, and they're going to play them. I hate to put it in those terms, but that it is what it is. They were supposed to return 28 sets of remains, and they returned 4. But before we get into that, let's just understand what is let's just understand that there is cause for celebration for the country of Israel and the people who have had their family members returned. This is Hostage Square, now known as Freed Square, I believe, in Israel. I mean, this is awesome to see, absolutely, and I don't want to take anything away from that. But what is, as the title of this episode says, what is the cost? What price did Israel pay for those hostages? What price are they going to pay? Thank God, 20 hostages were released. We're still waiting on the remains of 24 hostages. Hamas is saying that it's a logistical delay. They're blaming logistics. They're blaming who knows what. But the fact is, and if you're paying attention, you expected this. You absolutely expected this, or something along these lines. The families of the victims gathered, expecting closure, expecting to have their loved ones returned, and they were snubbed. This is a blatant breach of the deal, and as I said, this is something that we should have expected, and we're going to get into that a little bit later. Israel they have officials who were at one point downplaying the delay, trying to protect the optics of what they think is, or what they want everyone to believe is, a great deal. But the truth is that Hamas broke the terms of the agreement. And they did it, I think, knowing that Israel wasn't really going to do anything drastic in response. Why is that? Because they know how important it is to have the hostages and the remains of the hostages home. And they know that as long as they're holding those cards, as long as they're holding the remains of those hostages, Israel's not going to do what they are capable of doing, which is leveling Gaza, turning it into a parking lot, which, hostages notwithstanding, is what I think they should have done, honestly. You can't trust these people. It is in their holy book, it is in their teaching to lie to advance the cause of Islam. So you have to expect that anything they say has to be taken with a grain of salt, a huge grain of salt. They promised the return of 28 sets of remains, and they delivered 4. And I mean, it's so obvious what's happening. It's so obvious what's happening. And I want to believe, and we're going to get into this a little later, but I want to believe that Israel understands this and has contingencies in place. And as I said, we'll get into that in a minute. But I want to get to this because, of course, the American Pravda had to step on a rake when it came to this thing. And Christiane Amanpour, left-wing propagandist extraordinaire, and I mean, she's been in this business for decades. I mean, I remember watching her when I was a kid, when I was a teenager. And I think she was on CNN back. Well, no, because CNN wasn't around back then. Well, wherever she was, I remember watching her. And but she actually let something so ridiculous spill out of her face. You just have to watch this. I'm sure you've seen it, but if you haven't, check this out.
And I think for sure, people who start to talk to the hostages who've only just been released will find that it will take a long, long time for them to recover physically, but also mentally. It's been a terrible, terrible 2 years for them, because not only are they there, you know, they're probably being treated better than the average Gazan because they are the pawns and the chips that Hamas had. Now Hamas has given up all its leverage, by the way, by giving them all up. So that is a victory for the Israeli horror. And I think for sure.
Are you kidding me? Well, it seems something is going on with my audio. I'll have to check that out. Unfortunately, I have no idea what that could be. Nothing's changed, but technology hates me. That's what it is. Thank you for that, DZ. I was just alerted as well. So let's. Well, I'm just gonna keep going, and hopefully that I figure it out, and we can get it taken care of. But yeah, Christiane Amanpour basically said that the Israeli hostages were treated better than Gazans. Really? What do you say to that? What do you say to that? So we have that. We have Hamas reneging on the deal. But Trump's visit to the Knesset, which was historic by all accounts. I mean, he's only the fourth U.S. president to address the Knesset. So in that respect, it was historic. And of course, the fact that there's this alleged deal in place is also historic if it holds. And I'm not sure that it's going to. But let's take a listen to some of his address, and then we'll talk about it. And in the meantime, I'm going to try and see if we can deal with this audio situation here. But check this out.
This is not only the end of a war. This is the end of an age of terror and death, and the beginning of the age of faith and hope and of God. It's the start of a grand concord and lasting harmony for Israel and all the nations of what will soon be a truly magnificent region. I believe that so strongly. This is the historic dawn of a new Middle East. This
A historic dawn of a new Middle East. Well, I did make some adjustments, I should say, while that was playing. Hopefully that resolves it. If not, we'll have to figure something else out. But this was I should say this wasn't one of President Trump's best addresses. It was very good. It was very good, but he's had some really remarkable addresses. But this one, as I said, this one was good, and I encourage you to watch the whole thing. It's only about an hour, but it's worth listening to. At the beginning, there were some pro-Palestinian protesters in the venue, if you can believe that, inside the Knesset. That's a whole other story that we could get into. But Trump, this is classic Trump. This is classic Trump. It was blunt. It was grandiose. A little unrealistic, honestly, but impossible to ignore. Absolutely impossible to ignore. And it shines a spotlight on Israel's issue. How can they really declare victory in this situation when they are still negotiating for the remains of hostages, and at the same time, the remains of those hostages are being withheld under the guise of some sort of logistic issue. That's a problem. That is a problem. Here's another clip of President Trump, and this was another good one. And yeah, let's just take a listen to it.
The God who once dwelled among his people in this city still calls us, in the words of Scripture, the turn from evil and do good, to seek peace and pursue it. So he still whispers truth into the hills and knolls and valleys of his magnificent creation, and he still writes hope into the hearts of his children all over the world. The God who once dwelled among his people in this city still calls us, in the words of Scripture, the turn from evil and do good, to seek peace and pursue it. So he still whispers truth into the hills and knolls and valleys.
That was a good line. That was a good line. And I know that I shouldn't say I know that he believes this. I know that he wants to believe this. And as the master negotiator that he has been, I mean, nobody else, I don't think, could have done this to the extent that it has been done. I mean, you still can't trust the other side on this thing. But the fact that he got this far is remarkable. But in spite of all of that, in spite of all of the grand rhetoric coming out of this negotiation, coming out of this agreement, we should remember the Munich Accords. Neville Chamberlain on his return from a summit with Hitler uh, in front of the microphones. I think it was on the tarmac. Read from the document and then held it up, saying that he believes this meant peace in our time. Well, Hitler had other ideas, because Hitler said that that piece of paper held no significance whatsoever. And then 6 months later, he invaded Czechoslovakia. And 6 months after that, he invaded Poland and started World War II. So keep that in mind when dealing with a group like Hamas, who has in their scriptures, and I hate even using that word when it comes to the Quran, but has in their holy book justification and commands to lie to advance the cause of Islam. Taqiyya. I've talked about it before. I'll talk about it again. This is a tenuous and a precarious situation. And I don't think that it's going to turn out the way that everyone wants it to. I pray that it does. Obviously, I pray that it does. I pray that somehow the people running Hamas get some kind of revelation, and then, I mean, the only way that's going to happen is if divine intervention. God intervenes and does something miraculous. And so I do pray for that, but we'll see. We shall see. We're still waiting on 24 sets of remains, but peace, such as it is for now, has been achieved. But it's a partial deal right now. Terms have already, as I said, been broken, but because Israel really needs to have the remains of their hostages returned, they're going to deal with it for now. Israel's leadership would call that progress. Some people on the other side would say that it's a compromise with evil. And I don't think I would go that far, because I understand why they're doing it. I understand why they're going along with it for now. As I've made clear, they want their hostages returned. Now, I know that the Jewish people don't recognize the New Testament, but I keep coming back to Romans 13:4. The ruler is God's servant, an avenger who carries out the wrath on the wrongdoer. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I am hoping and praying that Israel has contingencies in place to deal with this issue when Hamas inevitably completely breaks the deal. Now, we've been talking about how the hostages have been released, but I didn't mention today how many prisoners Israel released in exchange for their hostages. They released 250 death row inmates, people convicted of terrorist acts within Israel, sentenced to death. And then I believe 1,700 more or thereabouts suspected of terrorism, but they couldn't prove it. The mastermind of the October 7th attack was a prisoner released in an exchange similar to this one. And they have just released 250 of them, plus 1,700 more who more than likely are involved in similar activities. How does anyone expect that those almost 2,000 terrorists are not going to get back in the fight? Honestly, I don't see how anyone can expect anything else. And so, as I said, I hope that there are contingencies in place. I hope that they are somehow able to keep tabs on these people and serve justice should the need arise. And you might say that that's not a very Christian thing to say. That's not a Christian response, but I think it's a very Christian response. 1 Peter 2:14 says, governors are sent to punish those who do evil. Whether or not the 1,700 actually committed any acts of violence or terror, maybe they did, maybe they didn't. But we know that the 250 death row inmates did. And they would do it again. So justice needs to be served somehow. And I don't know how anyone could think that what is happening right now with this deal is justice. This is, as happy as I am that the hostages have been returned, I can't help but think that something is brewing. And I really want to believe that Israel anticipated that Hamas has something planned. And despite all of the lip service that Israel is paying to this peace deal, they know better. They know better. And just wanted to get their hostages home and will address the issue at a later date, especially if Hamas decides to break that again. Four sets of remains have returned. 24 broken promises are still out there and waiting. 24 families are waiting. We'll see. We shall see. All right, y'all. We're going to be hanging out with this issue for a minute. We're going to be hanging out here for a minute. We may even end up doing the whole show on it. I'm not sure. We'll have to see. We'll have to see how long-winded I get on some things, but sticking with the theme of the Israel-Palestine conflict. remember not too long ago when there were crowds of Palestinian protesters chanting "Free Palestine" and all this other madness? Remember that? Remember this? This isn't Palestine. This isn't anywhere in the Middle East. This is Dallas, Texas. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. That's what they've been chanting this whole time. Since this deal was announced and since everything has gone down and the hostages have returned, crickets. Nothing. But this was going on for the entire 2 years. The entire 2 years of this conflict. Now, some might say it's protest fatigue. Come on, that's ridiculous. You know it, and I know it. And it's not just Dallas. This actually took place in Massachusetts, near where I used to live. And when you listen to this and hear this, this will be infuriating and heartbreaking. That kid was 4 years old leading that chant. Unbelievable. And so when people talk about how when people talk about having lasting peace, they're teaching the next generations. They're teaching their future generations to hate on this level. That kid was 4. So it's unlikely that this peace deal is going to have the effect that people are hoping for. Like I said, barring some divine intervention, of course. But now it's crickets. The deal is essentially what they wanted. They wanted a ceasefire. They wanted their Palestinian prisoners returned. They wanted some sort of interim governance. They wanted some redevelopment plans. All of that is in this deal. So you would think they would be celebrating. You would think they would be gloating that they got most, if not all, of what they wanted. But of course, they're now silent, which begs the question, what were they really protesting for? What was their real objective? It wasn't ending the occupation, the so-called occupation, it wasn't returning the 2,000 Palestinians who were being held in Israeli custody, not tortured, by the way. When you look at the pictures of the returned hostages and how skinny they are, reports that they've lost 40% of their body weight, and the Palestinians who were returned, fat and happy, thinking about the next bomb they're going to plant. This is indicative of the fact that it was never about what they told us it was about. The chant from the river to the sea. If you're watching this, I'm going to assume that you know what that means. But just in case you don't, or maybe you need a refresher, let's take a look at what it actually means. And this is actually from Kirsten Sinema, who's a leftist. She's apparently just not as lunatic as the rest of her compatriots over there on the left. But this is a map of Israel. This right here is the Jordan River, and this is the Mediterranean Sea. From the river to the sea. That means that they want to completely wipe Israel off the map. That's what that means. And that's what they had that 4-year-old kid leading a chant for. When they're chanting from the river to the sea, that's what they mean. So obviously a ceasefire, obviously ending the so-called occupation wasn't the goal. Their goal always was and always will be the eradication of Israel. I mean, this peace deal notwithstanding, they haven't changed their charter. I haven't seen or heard any reports, indications of that. So if they haven't changed their charter, that means that they still are committed to the eradication of Israel. They want to dismantle Israel's legitimacy as a country, which should sound familiar because they think the United States is an illegitimate country. And they chant death to America too. But the people who were doing this, they don't celebrate peace because it's never been about peace. They don't celebrate peace because they are violent extremists. They don't celebrate peace because their vision of peace sees Israel completely destroyed. And until that happens, there can be no celebration on their part. Now, some people might say that it's they're showing some caution, waiting to see what happens, seeing if the guarantees actually hold. some people might say that it's the media's gotten tired of it and they've moved on. Others might be laying low, or they might claim that they're laying low to avoid being charged or being under surveillance or whatever the case may be. But you and I both know, we all know that that's not the case. It's a tactical retreat to retool and come up with another slogan, and well, not slogan, but another angle with which to come at eradicating Israel. And maybe what's going to happen is Hamas is going to, in their tactical retreat, retool and attack again. And then that will be the excuse they need for when Israel retaliates to say, see, we told you. And then they'll fire up those chants all over again. If your voice is only for outrage and chaos, but not for reconciliation, then we know what you're all about. We know what you're all about. It's all about the violence. It's all about the conflict. And any demands, any chance of reconciliation is completely out the window, because that's not what you want. And as I said, anyone paying attention to anything other than the propagandists on the left, like the Communist News Network and MSLSD, we know this, and we're just waiting for the other shoe to drop. All right, y'all. Let's get a word in from our sponsor before we move on. I got a lot more to get to, and I know that my sound is still fluctuating a bit, unfortunately. Well, let's see if we can fix that. But the word from our sponsor for today's show is Patriot Mobile. And Patriot Mobile is America's only Christian conservative wireless carrier. And today, more than ever, your vote just is not enough. You need to make sure that your resources, your dollars go to companies that fight for what you believe in. And that's why we switched to Patriot Mobile. As I said, it's America's only Christian conservative wireless carrier. And they don't just talk the talk when it comes to values. They back it up. A portion of every dollar goes to pro-life, pro-family, and pro-freedom organizations. And right now, you can get a free month of service when you go to patriotmobile.com and use promo code Jackson, or call 972-PATRIOT and use promo code Jackson. Defend freedom with every call, every text, every month. Switch to patriotmobile.com today. Switch to patriotmobile.com today. All right, y'all. I am Big E, and you are watching or listening to the Mission Ready Men Briefing right here on the SHR Media Network, where you can catch my good friend Sackhead Sean with the Edge of Liberty every Monday and Wednesday at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific. The Reaver of Common Sense with Jersey Joe every Monday and Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern and 6 p.m. Pacific. And BZ with the Berserk Bobcat Saloon every Tuesday and Thursday at 11 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Pacific. So he will be on this evening. So be sure to check him out and subscribe to his channel, subscribe to the SHR Media channel, check out all of those great shows, and pray for us that we have a huge breakthrough this year. And we want to reach as many people as we possibly can. All right, now back to our regularly scheduled programming. All right, I said we were going to hang out with this, with the Middle East and the conflict over there. Well, now we got to talk about something that's going on here. And the United States has been involved in the Middle East for a long time. There have been conflicts, there have been wars, and now one of the biggest financiers of Islamist politics, and some would say Islamic terror, is building a facility on an Air Force base in Idaho. Qatar's Air Force is setting up shop on an Air Force base in Idaho. Now, they like to tell us, they want us to believe that Qatar is an ally like Saudi Arabia. Qatar is a very small, oil-rich country, monarchy, really. But they have a huge, huge global footprint for being such a small country. They have Al Jazeera. They have been funding Hamas. They have hosted the Taliban's political offices. In fact, let's take a look at this, because I came across this as I was researching this topic. Let's see if I can find it. Yeah. This is amazing.
Has historically been a funder of terrorism the nation of Qatar, unfortunately, has historically been a funder of terrorism at a very high level. And in the wake of that
2017
conference, nations came together and spoke to me about confronting Qatar over its behavior. So we had a decision to make. Do we take the easy road, or do we finally take a hard but necessary action? We have to stop the funding of terrorism. I decided, along with Secretary of State Rex Tillerson, our great generals and military people, the time had come to call on Qatar to end its funding. They have to end that funding. The nation of Qatar.
Now, apparently they want us to believe that they have ended that funding. I am not convinced by any means. Qatar has, and I know that President Trump is a deal maker, and I know that they gifted him that jet that they're going to convert into Air Force One. They want us to believe that they're our ally. But they have been trying to peddle influence and gain influence in this country for a long time. There's rumors that they have been funding Tucker Carlson. He's denied those rumors, but it would explain some of the hard left turns that he's taken of late. He says he's never taken a dime. Okay, that doesn't mean that they haven't influenced him in some other way, but that's a whole other topic. But we still have the issue. We have the issue of this Air Force base, or this training facility that they are building on Mountain Home Air Force Base. The Qatari Emiri Air Force is going to build a facility inside the U.S. base. They're going to fund the construction of it. Pete Hegseth and the Pentagon are insisting that it's not a foreign base. That's just semantics, honestly. It is a completely foreign base. The United States just has jurisdiction, I guess, and access control and things of that nature. But the fact is that there is still going to be an Islamic presence on a military installation in this country. Now, to be fair, we have had foreign governments set up facilities on our bases in the past. It's been going on since the 70s. But we don't have to go that far back to remember that some Saudi-trained pilots were on the ones who perpetrated 9/11. They weren't trained by military, but there's that too. But we were training some Saudi pilots in Pensacola, and one of them decided to commit a mass shooting, killing some of our service members. So when we know that Islam hates the United States, hates America, why on earth would we allow a Muslim presence with ties to extremist groups like Hamas and Al Qaeda? Why would we allow them any type of presence on our soil, especially a military installation? Mystified, completely mystified. And I don't know. I want to believe that Hegseth was against this, but has been ordered to do it. And then, but even then, I would think that he would, or I would hope that he would have enough integrity to say, I don't want to do that, I'll resign. I don't know. But we have this military presence that's going to be on our soil. Are they going to build a mosque on this facility? I think we have to assume that they will. And we know what goes on in a mosque. Now, Hegseth has heard the backlash and responded and said that they will not have their own base. But what's the difference between their own base and a facility on our base? I mean, what is the real difference there, other than semantics? I don't get it. If anyone can explain it to me, I'd be happy to listen. But it just doesn't make any sense to me on any level. On any level. BZ likes to say China is our enemy. Islam is our enemy. I know that's not politically correct to say, but I don't care because it's true. Islam is our enemy. And I know that there are moderate, so-called moderate Muslims who denounce violence, but they're not following Islam. They're doing the same thing with Islam that so-called Christians do, who have rainbow flags in their pulpits, and preachers who preach this heresy that homosexuality is fine, who preach that God never spoke against homosexuality. They're doing the same thing with Islam that those people are doing with Christianity. They're not following. They're not following true Islam. And when push comes to shove, do you really think they're going to denounce the violence? Not a chance. Not a chance. The Pentagon wants to sell this as partnership building, regional stability, mutual training benefits. Come on. What are Qatari pilots going to teach our pilots? What benefit can that possibly be for us? I'd be happy to listen to an explanation of that too. And for all of the talk of America first, this seems like the exact opposite of that. And so for all the people out there who say that I'm just I'm in the Trump cult, and everything he says and does I'm down for. I am absolutely not down for this whatsoever. Not even a little bit. This is a huge mistake, miscalculation. And I do not want to. The potential consequences of this are catastrophic on so many levels. And the agreement signed, I don't know that it can, I don't know what can be done about it at this point, but I don't know. And this isn't xenophobia, like I'm sure somebody will accuse me of being when it comes to this. This is about our sovereignty as a nation. And it's along the same lines, and even worse, really, as allowing the CCP to buy up farmland near some of these bases. And so I would love to know, is there any CCP owned farmland near this base? And if so, wow. I didn't even think about that till just now, but if anybody can take a look at that, I would love to know. This is a mistake on so many levels. And the influence, the foreign influence that this represents is off the charts dangerous. Just off the charts dangerous. This is this is a huge mistake. A huge mistake. And I'm really, really surprised that we're making it. All right, we don't have much going on in the chat. I'm going to guess it's because the sound has been a mess, and I apologize for that. But we do have James Harbin in the chat. God is and will act soon. You are absolutely right. Thank you for being here, James. I appreciate it. All right, let's move on. We got a little bit of time left, and I want to get into this because this is important, and this is something that we need to address. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Yes, we are talking about the Second Amendment. Queen Bee says the sound is better, but there's a whine that's still there. That's too bad. I don't know. We'll see. Gavin Newsom, ridiculous governor of the state of California, has signed into law AB 1127. California has gone full dystopia, full communist. AB 1127. And I talked about this not too long ago when it was either before it was passed. Yeah, I believe we were talking about this before it actually passed. And it passed. And on October 10th, Mussolini signed it into law. And what it does is it classifies Glock handguns and Glock style handguns as machine guns. They are now considered machine guns because criminals who are always going to criminal can modify them to turn them into fully automatic handguns. And because criminals can do that, he just banned the entire platform altogether. Now, it is probably not going to hold up in court. I don't see how it could. But for the time being, and it doesn't go into effect until June of 2026. So there is some time that it may get overturned before it goes into effect. And I hope that that's the case. But the fact that he did that is mind-boggling. And it really shouldn't be, because we know that he is a full-on communist. Yeah, back in April, I talked about this. I posted it on X. And I also posted this on X. I couldn't find it in my feed, but I found this. And this is what he really believes. He really believes this about the Second Amendment, which is why he has no problem violating it at every turn. Check this out.
I mean, the Second Amendment's becoming a suicide pact, it feels like. I mean, the Second Amendment's becoming a suicide pact, it feels like. I mean, it's just, and that's the only question the community wants. How do you, what about our kids when they're going to school? What more can we do? And, again, we look at that all the time. I mean, we did another half dozen gun safety bills last year. We'll continue to find whatever loopholes we can. We'll continue to lead the national conversation on gun safety reform, and the data bears out it works.
Look at this. 1, 2, I think 3. I think there's one other guy. two other guys behind them right here. Let's see. Yeah. Talking about the Second Amendment being a suicide pact as he's surrounded by guys with guns. So the guns are good enough for him and his protection, but not you or something. He said, no one needs a weapon of war masquerading as a handgun. That's the switch that allows Glocks and Glock style weapons to be modified to be fully automatic is already illegal. So by banning the most popular handgun in the world, and believe me, I'm not a fan. I do not own a Glock. I do not like shooting Glocks. I just don't. I don't. But I would never be okay with banning it just because I don't like it. I mean, probably more than half of the police departments in the country, in the world for that matter, not that that matters because we're talking about the Second Amendment of the United States, but half of the police departments in this country issue Glocks. Cops use Glocks. And he's just gonna ban the most popular handgun in the world because reasons. But AB 1127, that is now law, says that any pistol that can be readily modified to be fully automatic is now a machine gun. That is utterly insane. So that is Glock 17, Glock 19, Glock 26. Not only the most popular handgun when it comes to police departments, but civilians as well. I mean, my dad is a Glock guy. I don't like him, but I know so many people who stand by Glocks, and more power to you. I just hope you don't live in California. There are exceptions for law enforcement, military, and other government officials because I guess they're the only ones that have good intentions. They're the only ones that are worthy or something. Just I want to say unbelievable, but it's totally believable coming from this guy. Totally believable. Because he hates the Constitution. He hates the people. And he hates guns, except when they're used to protect him. They say that we're closing loopholes, but this is already a felony offense. Using one of these switches is already a felony offense. So it doesn't do anything except criminalize design features of the most popular handgun in the world. And there's a reason why there are so many variants. There's a reason why there are so many copycat designs. Because it works. And people have tried to tell me that if I just get a different lower for it to change the grip angle, that I'd be a Glock guy myself. But then it's not really a Glock, is it? But anyway, that's a different story. The switch that is causing so much consternation on the left is the size of, I don't know, a Lego maybe. And it's already illegal. It's already illegal. But it's the signing of this law is this bill is performative. I really don't think it's going to hold up in court. There are already challenges. I don't know if one's been filed yet. It was just signed on October 10th, and today is the 14th. So there may have been some filings already. It's not going to hold up. It can't. Banning an entire brand of firearm because some criminal can do something to it makes absolutely no sense. And I cannot for the life of me think of what legal argument they're going to use to get around it. The Firearms Policy Coalition has pledged to file suit. California Gun Rights Foundation, NRA, all of those groups have been are going to mobilize to put a stop to it. So we'll see. It's bound to fail, and I don't know. He's I want to say he's smart enough to know that, but maybe he's not, because some of the things the leftists have been saying over the past year or so, well, forever really, but it's gotten really ridiculous over the past year or so. Some of the things they say and do just defy any sense that they actually are smart. I used to think that they were at least halfway intelligent and just had some really stupid ideas, but now I'm not so sure. Now I am not so sure. And so people who own these guns in California and have somehow been fortunate enough to get a permit in California on July 1st of 2026, if they haven't gotten rid of it, they could be an instant felon. Now, I don't remember if there was any grace period or if there was any grandfathering, and maybe there is, and maybe it's just a banning of they just banned the sale of it after that. I'm not sure. I'm gonna have to reread that law to see. But regardless, it's ridiculous. Regardless, it's unconstitutional and illegal. Banning the most popular handgun because for reasons. And do not let them fool you into believing that it's about safety. It's not. It's never, ever about safety. It is always has been, and always will be about control. It always will be about power. They do not want you to be able to control your own destiny. They do not want you to be able to be independent of them. They want you dependent on them for everything. They want you dependent on them for your safety. Because if by some stretch of the imagination, it does hold up in court. It's not going to stop there. It is not going to stop there. They will expand the list of guns that they ban until there are absolutely no guns left to ban. And the entire state of California will be disarmed. And Mussolini is gearing up for a run at the White House, and he wants to export that nationwide. And we just simply cannot have that. We cannot have that. All right, y'all. I wanted to get into the Virginia gubernatorial debate with Spanberger and Winsome Earl-Sears, but I really don't have time to get into all of that. So I want to see if there's something we can talk about the next few minutes on Twitchy. And let's see what we got. Oh boy. So this is related to that. So let's take a look at it. Abigail Spanberger. And this was just posted a little while ago. She posted something on X. Let's take a look at it. She says, I'm Abigail Spanberger, mom of 3 daughters in Virginia public schools, former federal agent and former CIA case officer. That blows my mind, honestly. I'm running for governor to lower costs, strengthen public schools, and keep our communities safe. Most importantly, I will always put Virginia first. Yeah, sounds great. Sounds fantastic. Stephen Miller bodied her with this. Your running mate supports murder. Oh, man. Stephen Miller, leave it to him. Leave it to him to always drop the truth bombs. He is, this time around, President Trump has surrounded himself with some of the best spokespeople he could have hoped for. Because between him, Stephen Miller, and Caroline Leavitt, and J.D. Vance, I mean, the messaging out of the White House is fantastic. And let's stick with Jay Jones, the one of the reasons why Spanberger got smoked in that debate. Winsome Earl-Sears just wouldn't let up on that. Jay Jones has another complaint against him at the bar. And let's see what this tweet says. What happened? Wow, technology really doesn't like me today. I lost the sharing. Unbelievable. All right. The Nonprofit Center to Advance Security in America has filed a second bar complaint against Jay Jones over the texting scandal, this time in DC, where he briefly served as assistant AG years ago and is still active and in good standing with the DC bar. I don't know why he's still in the race, honestly. I really don't. It makes absolutely no sense. He needs to bow out, take a break, get his life together, pray, come to Jesus and do something else, because this just isn't working out for him. This just is not working out for him. Yeah, Jay Jones is all over Twitchy right now. He is. He needs to drop out. I haven't heard from this guy in a while. Let's take a look at this. Dan Bongino pulls 0 punches, dropping the New York Times, proclaiming Trump's DOJ doesn't like each other. Well, let's see what this leads. Big thanks to the New York Times for reminding us that the mainstream media still sucks a whole lot. Apparently, they spoke with an anonymous source with knowledge of the situation who said that Trump's DOJ doesn't like each other. If there's no drama, we can always count on our pals in the crap media to lie and create it. This is Todd Blanche. Hey, FBI Director Cash, the failing New York Times says we don't like each other. Guess we'll just have to stop hanging out after work? Those dummies. Virtually every part of their reporting is exaggerated or fabricated per usual. If it wasn't for Wordle, nobody would subscribe. Oh, man. Wow. They, Todd Blanche hit him, and then here comes Bongino. And if you followed Bongino before he became deputy director of the FBI, you know he pulls no punches. And if you follow him on X at FBID Bongino, check him out. But check this out. Here we go. I have direct knowledge and can state with certainty that your story is trash. Oh, man. Graham Allen says the New York Times is full of gutter trash losers. They wouldn't know what a journalist, much less the truth, was, even if it hit them in the face. He's not wrong. Where's the lie? Where is the lie? All right, y'all. I know my sound is probably ridiculous. And if you stuck around, thank you. If you didn't, I understand. But that's all I got for you right now. I will try to do better on the next one. I will try to make sure the sound is better on the next one. But if any of what I said that you can understand, take a second to like and subscribe and share this episode with everyone that you know. I know that the sound may not make that inviting for you, but I apologize again. But we're not just here to run our mouths and opine. We're here to spread the gospel of Jesus Christ and carry the banner of faith, freedom, and hope for future generations. If you want some cool gear, please head over to missionreadymen.com, click Shop 7 Armors, and check out all of the great designs we have over there, all about faith, bold faith, true grit, and unapologetic patriotism. All right, that's it. As always, when seconds count, the police are only minutes away, but the Lord is right there with you. So keep your prayers going up and your head on a swivel. God bless.